23%. That's how much Atatu Peninsula house values dropped from their peak. This coastal West Auckland suburb with Waitemata Harbour views lost 23.2% of its value. Point England crashed harder, 33%. That's $482,000 wiped out. From $1.46 million in December 2021 to $978,000 by mid-2024. These numbers from Auckland's coastal and waterfront suburbs aren't random market blips. They're evidence of a property correction hitting families across New Zealand's largest city harder than most people realize. Atatu Peninsula stretches along the Waitemata Harbour in West Auckland, home to families drawn by waterfront living, harbour views, and proximity to the city. For generations, this area meant reliable property values and neighborhoods where families could settle. Between late 2021 and late 2025, something broke. Meadowbank tells the story best. This prestige neighborhood bordering Remuera saw its average property value fall 7.1%, $120,000, to $1.56 million in just 3 months. Almost $500,000 below its peak of $2.03 million. And this wasn't a gentle correction. It was a wealth wipeout. Auckland Mayor Wayne Brown's May 2025 manifesto admitted the scale. New Zealand is doing it tough. Consumer confidence has collapsed. Unemployment is forecast to reach pandemic levels. Many people are struggling under financial hardship. When Auckland's mayor describes consumer confidence as collapsed and compares unemployment to pandemic levels, you're watching a city in serious trouble. Right, let's start with the numbers because the scale of Auckland's crash is staggering. Auckland house prices fell 23.05% from their November 2021 peak through December 2025. The median dropped from $1.34 million to $990,000. That's $350,000 in lost value for the median homeowner. In dollar terms, property owners watched $250,000 disappear. But specific coastal suburbs got hammered even harder. Point England, former state housing on high-value land, plummeted 33%, $482,000, from its December 2021 peak of $1.46 million. Even after rebounding 3.98%, it sits at $1.017 million, still more than $400,000 off peak value. Between December 2023 and December 2025, Point England prices declined at a rate of 8.54% per year. Atatu Peninsula, the waterfront suburb with Waitemata Harbour views, crashed 23.2% from peak. In one quarter alone, values dropped 6.4%. Properties that families bought for coastal living and reliable appreciation became financial traps. Meadowbank, considered bulletproof because of its proximity to Remuera, recorded the country's steepest quarterly drop. Average values fell $120,000 in 3 months, from a $2.03 million peak to $1.56 million. Families lost nearly $500,000 in equity. Property that seemed unshakable proved anything but. Across Auckland, 58 of 276 suburbs fell in value during the correction. The city became New Zealand's worst-performing housing market. Values dropped to levels last seen in January 2021, a 4-year low. The number of Auckland suburbs with average values under $1 million jumped from 15 at peak to 52 now. Liam Dan, NZ Herald business editor, wrote, "I don't think people realize just how bad the property market has been in the past 3 years, and the extent to which it is the culprit when we try to explain the miserable state of the economy. If you are in Auckland or Wellington, the current property market slump is one of the worst in New Zealand's history." Auckland's crash wasn't an accident. 3 forces collided. First, interest rates. The Reserve Bank of New Zealand slammed the brakes. The official cash rate surged from 0.25% in 2021 to 5.5% by May 2023. Mortgage rates tripled. Families who borrowed at 2.5% during the boom suddenly faced 6 to 7% rates. Real numbers make this concrete. A family borrowing $700,000 in 2021 at 3% paid around $2,950 monthly in principal and interest. Late 2023, that same mortgage at 6% cost $4,190 monthly. That's $1,240 more every month. $14,880 per year. For families already stretched by rising grocery costs, energy bills, and insurance premiums, those numbers simply broke the budget. Second, oversupply. Auckland's residential market experienced notable oversupply by late 2025. Total rental listings grew 10% over 8 weeks, 15% higher than the same time the previous year. The pipeline of newly completed townhouses and apartments flooded the market. Thousands of Auckland terraced houses and townhouses remained unsold, not empty. Developers rented them when the sales market flattened. Some properties sat unsold for more than 6 months. Westgate, Massey, Puko, Manurua, Papakura all showed high inventory of unsold attached dwellings. Share of property listings for sale that are townhouses, between 10 to 15% in Auckland and Canterbury. Average across all regions, for percent. The townhouse market became saturated. Third, economic collapse. Mayor Wayne Brown's May 2025 manifesto laid it bare. While the most recent GDP growth figures were slightly positive, many people are struggling under financial hardship. Consumer confidence has collapsed. Unemployment is forecast to reach pandemic levels. Net overseas migration fell to 2.5-year lows. In March 2024, net migration was 100,400. By March 2025, just 26,400, a 74% decrease. Fewer migrants meant less demand. First home buyers left the rental pool. Supply overwhelmed demand. Kelvin Davidson, Cotality chief property economist. The sluggish labor market was the biggest macro headwind for property values. Job market uncertainty had an indirect effect on households' confidence. When rates triple, supply floods the market, and unemployment surges, property values don't just fall. They crash. Let's talk about what this crash actually means for families. Property owners who bought near the peak face brutal reality. Buy in Point, England for $1.46 million in December 2021. By mid-2024, worth $978,000. Lost $482,000 in equity. If you borrowed 80%, $1.168 million mortgage, you're underwater. Negative equity. You owe more than the home's worth. Selling means crystallizing a massive loss. Staying means bleeding cash monthly while hoping for a recovery that may take years. You're trapped. Across Auckland, families who bought in 2021 to 2022 faced the same nightmare. Can't sell without massive losses. Can't refinance because values dropped. Stuck with mortgages they can barely afford as rates jumped. The broader economic impact hits hardest in individual realities. Auckland's household income data shows the strain. About 38% of all households said income was only just or not enough to meet everyday needs by 2024, up from around 34% in 2021. Mayor Brown acknowledged the scale in his manifesto. The Prime Minister wants to go for growth, and I welcome his can-do attitude. I've got a plan for Auckland to lead the way. So let's work together and get on with supercharging Auckland to fix New Zealand and pull it out of this recession. The city's mayor describing Auckland as needing to pull New Zealand out of recession tells you everything about the economic state. So what comes next for Auckland's coastal suburbs? The crash has already happened. Auckland's 23% decline is fact. Atatu Peninsula down 23.2%. Point England down 33%. Meadowbank down nearly $500,000 from peak. The question isn't whether Auckland crashed. It's whether the worst is over. Interest rates provide some hope. The RBNZ cut the official cash rate from 5.5% to 2.25% by November 2025, a 325 basis point easing. Average mortgage yields fell to 5.4%, expected to hit 4.7% by September 2026. Lower rates should improve affordability and buying power. But economists remain cautious. Kelvin Davidson, 2025 proved to be a year of conflicting forces, with multiple factors pulling in opposite directions to leave values broadly flat. Debt-backed multiple property owners, including the cliched mom and dad investors, have also been working their way back into the market, helped by lower mortgage rates. Auckland faces unique headwinds. Elevated inventory, particularly townhouses. Weak economy. Job market uncertainty. Mayor Brown's concern about unemployment reaching pandemic levels suggests labor market pain ahead. The city's position as New Zealand's economic engine means when Auckland struggles, the country struggles. Liam Dan, Auckland's small business economy is built around property-related services: building, renovation, driveways, roofing, pools, sheds, landscaping, interior decorating. The city doesn't have the manufacturing sector it once did. Tourism sector still struggling to get back to pre-COVID levels. Aucklanders in particular have lived on the sugar high of rising property prices for too long. For coastal suburbs like Te Atatu Peninsula, recovery depends on how quickly buyer demand strengthens. Properties that fell 23% need to rise 30% just to return to previous peak values due to mathematical percentages working against recovery. The 23% crash represents one of the worst property corrections in New Zealand history. For families who mistimed the market, the wealth dream became a financial nightmare. If this breakdown helped you understand Auckland's coastal property crash, hit like and subscribe. We're tracking how this plays out across New Zealand's regions. Drop a comment. Did your suburb get hit by the crash? And share this with others who need to know what's really happening to Auckland house prices. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next report.